thank you so much for
No
helping
problem.
out with my project. Even though, like I just told you, I still work in architecture, acoustic architecture and design as a day to day, but I really love talking about vision, talking about people's purposes, things like that, because I'm a big advocate for that. Like, if someone comes to me, girl, and they'll be like, I'm thinking about doing this, I always say, okay, now what? Like,
right. What's the plan? What's the vision?
What we doing? Right. So I always push people to, like, I force them to think, and then you can tell when somebody really cares about what they're talking about. Yes, because there are people, they'll tell me, and then later I'll see it, and I'm like, okay. But then there's some people, they'll tell you, and it just stops. It dies, and I'm like,
right.
It didn't exist. So that's why I wanted to talk to you, because you are one of those people that when you said you was gonna do it, you did it. And I remember how many times we was in school and we just going through the motion, and you like, I'm so over this. I'm so done. I just want to graduate. I want to do real projects. Why am I wasting my time doing projects? They're not even going to be built. Like, it's a waste. I'm already doing this. Just run through my degree. And you used to go in, and
I tell people all the time, don't call me to try to talk to your kids about going to college, okay? I'm not always the one, but I'm actually glad though that I finished that chapter. Because girl, one point I don't even know if I did not plan on going to grad school.
Really? I didn't know that.
No, man, I applied. No, ma'am, it was like all the way up until Christmas break. I hadn't applied to no school. I was like, I'm not going.
What?
Yes, and then I went home for Christmas break, and my favorite aunt, she was like, so what you doing after graduation? I was like, I was so tired from school, Esther. Like, it was just a lot. It was like first generation college student.
I know.
Out of state, like I was over it, and she was just like, no, you have to go. She talked my ear off for 3 hours. I was like, fine, I'm gonna apply to one school. And I applied to one school, and the only school that did not require me to take the GRE. That is where I was.
I even say that, but literally I did not want to take it. So I was like, I hate standardized testing. So I was like, where can I go where I don't have to do it? And well, all y'all FIUNs is watching this, thank you.
Thank you. Like, I shout out to Dante, because he's the one who plugged me in on that memo. So that was a huge blessing. And then it turned out to be a really, really good experience. So yeah, thank you for that chapter. But thank you that it is over.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you. I would never want to go back. Like, I felt like when I used to see you and you used to just be ready to go, it's like you saw it as a checklist. I'm just trying to get this done because that's all. And I felt like that too, because I only went to grad school as one, to prove to myself I could do it. So I was so like, I wanted to do better than I did in undergrad. And two, because I was like, if I don't like architecture like that and I do it after a couple of years, I want to teach. I like teaching.
Right.
That was like, let me have that as a safety net. That's why I went. But girl,
and we were very active in undergrad too, with organizations and things like that. So by the time grad school came, like you said, it was a checklist. Like, all right, 2 years, let's try to get it done in 2 years, you know? So yeah, you were very committed because it was not a like easy way.
I was driving. I was commuting a lot. Like, when I think about it sometimes, I'm like, what are you thinking? I be thinking for real, like today, because even with FAMU, when I used to commute for Christmas break, you used to do 7. I used to do 7 hours on the bus. I'm like, today, if somebody told me to hop on a Greyhound for 7 hours to get to Tallahassee, no, ma'am. And right now, if somebody's like, oh, do you want to go back to school? Are you willing to commute? No, ma'am. There's just so many things. There's a certain headspace, and that was like my 20s.
Exactly.
Finally crossed over to 30. I'm just like, oh,
yeah. So, back then we were young. we had the energy, we had the drive, and now it's like,
no. So, all right, we doing a lot of reminiscing. It is fun.
Yes.
We're going to end up reminiscing in here, but I'm so excited to have this conversation because it's a conversation about architecture. And I kind of had one earlier with another interview, so I hope you get to see that. But I really wanted to talk to you because of the Studios. So before we even get in that, for those who don't know who you are, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Teri Watson. I am from Houston, Texas originally. I've been living in Florida for about 13 years now. Yes, 13 years now. I have my Bachelor of Science degree in Architectural Studies and my Master's degree in Architecture. I am currently a independent contractor. I have my own company called Envision Studio, and I have been contracting with 2 firms consecutively, R&B out of Wynwood and Atelier Kari in Miami Beach. And I have worked on a number of projects, a few projects in the Design District, South Florida, Miami Beach. So yeah, overall architectural designer, and that's it.
Awesome. Okay. So this is gonna help me get to know a little bit more about yourself also. So, all right, I want us to kind of please walk us through FAMU, because let me just say right now, when we was in undergrad, I didn't have a class with you per se. I don't think we did in studio, and I don't think we did, but I've seen you, and that's when I was like, Sierra is the one who knew you. You and Sierra are very close. And I'm like, okay, that's Teri, cool. But I'm gonna tell you right now, Teri, there was something about you where you were always so determined. Like, some of us were in architecture school, some of us would kind of go through the motion, some of us still trying to figure out, I didn't want to still do this, but I'm gonna keep doing it. But something about you always seemed like, I am determined, I know exactly what I want. And to me, that's why I want to talk to you about vision, because it's like, you've seen it. Like, even though we were just like, we undergrad, whatever, you seem to have something driving you. So please, can you kind of walk us through this idea of vision for you when it comes to architecture?
Yeah, it's so funny to hear you say that. It seems as if I always, had it, because I didn't feel like that at all. I didn't apply for architecture originally. So I kind of was thrown into architecture. And I think that is probably where that determination and drive came from, because I started off so behind that I always was trying to make sure I was a step ahead.
Yeah.
Because my first studio, 1.1 was very rough for me. At the time, I was the only girl in my studio. There's our 3 sections, right? So I was the only girl in my section. All the guys, they had taken drafting classes in high school. They were prepared. They knew what an axle drawing was. They knew where all these things was. And I don't know if anyone listening knows that going to FAMU, but my professor was LaGrosse. So it wasn't an easy first studio, and so that, and having her also as my first professor, I think definitely aligned. Either you're here or you're not.
Yeah.
So I think that is kind of where it came from. And also knowing that I had moved away from home at 17 and tried to embark on this journey. And I was never one to turn around and stop.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from. I think when you kind of started to see me in those later years, as we started to approach undergrad graduation, you started to see that, okay, I'm not going back attitude. So I think that's kind of where it came from. So first year, that was more of me learning, sponging it all, everything. And then second year is when I was like, okay, I got it. Now I'm just going to go. Third year, I'm not stopping. Fourth year, I'm about to be out of here. So let me get what I need to get.
Let me go.
Right. So that's kind of how it came, come about. And I also looked up to all of y'all, though, honestly, as peers, there were some of y'all that were doing things that I didn't even think about. We learned so much from each other when we're presenting and things like that. So I learned from what the professors would say, either they were saying it to me or to y'all, or you know, looking at the upper division students and, you know, just their critiques. Like I really was like trying to just learn as much as I could, because I knew that once I got out, it was going to be even harder, as a African-American, you know, designer in the profession. I'm just like, this is going to be the easiest it is. So let me just try to excel as much as possible. So that's kind of, you know, I think that attitude that you saw,
yes,
it wasn't so, so like, yeah, I got this in my head, but maybe that's how it came off. But it wasn't like that at all. I was just trying to learn and not trying to fail.
that's really good. I think what you said about the fact that you were trying to learn, I think a lot of people should really take that to heart, because we get so focused by the critique. We get so focused about, you know, this idea that it didn't come out right. We get so focused that this person's design looked better than mine. And it's hard to try to sponge and learn. People are still taken back about whatever just happened, you know, in this class, in this critique, in this charrette.
It's personal.
They take it personal. They do it hard not to, because we marry these designs. So when we hear this idea that what I did is not so up to par, you already feel just down. But I think for people who may be watching this, if you're in the architecture program, keep on learning. And I think that's what, remember when you said, like I said, that's why you seem so focused. I'm thinking you're focused because it's like, all right, she feel like she got in the bag. She know what she wants. But it was just, I'm surviving. I'm doing what I got to do. And I'm not going to let yesterday's downfalls be today's, you know? Yeah. And I think that is so admirable, because we, you know, we're young. We take it personal. We ain't like it.
Because we don't, because by the time we have a critique, you ain't have no sleep. And then it's like, you know, you done spent your money, you done paid to get your boards, you done paid, even if you didn't finish your project, you're already upset how your board looked probably. Your model, if it is done or if it's not done. If somebody touched it in the middle of the night and then messed it, like it's so many things. Then you know your computer broke down before.
Oh, don't bring that up, please.
You know, it's just a process that has happened before you even get up there to get the critiques on your project. So it is, you know, again, like learning that tough skin. And because I never had a completed project, and I didn't even realize that until I got to grad school. I never completed any of my undergrad projects. Like they were always unfinished. But I was like, they not gonna know. So let me pick the best shot. Let me pick the I never had it. They were never complete.
You see my face right now? You know, that says a lot. That says a lot about how well somebody knows. I don't even want to say you finesse. But how well,
well
you know how to properly show the work. That is so important. So it wasn't even the fact that, you know it happens. It's not like you tried to not finish, but you still presented it as if it was finished, you know, and you still was able to conceptualize and speak on the fact that this is where I was going. And the reason why this all comes full circle is because that's kind of how vision is. It's like we're trying to get somewhere. There are things that's going to come our way. There are things that's going to kind of shift and move out the place. But because I am so adamant about where I'm going, I'm still going to showcase to others that this it didn't shake me. So it's like you still was able to bring out a presentation. I'm still able to show the world this is where I'm going. And they will never, the fact that you
never knew.
You saw my face, and they will never know.
You will never know.
They will never, and I think that goes hard. That goes hard. Ain't nobody gonna know. Girl, you know, you did a whole portfolio. That's what I'm saying. And that is why vision is so important. And this is why you gotta know how to work the system to work out for you. Girl, that is amazing.
And just another tip, if there are any, architecture students out there, and I always, give people, they always talk to me about this, but you don't always have to listen to what the professor tells you to do, right? Like that's their critique. That's their one person, So that doesn't mean that your idea isn't good. That just means that you need to work on it some more so that other people can. So it's more useful to just like everyone, right? Like even if they tell you, how they say 2 sections, 2, elevations, whatever, and they give you a scale. They say it needs to be at a quarter scale or whatever it is. If a quarter scale is not showing what you need, then blow it up to another scale. Like you do what you need to do. And that's what I did, right? Like if you tell me to cut a section, and then if my section ain't done, you're gonna get 3 elevations with a nice rendering. And the floor plans, if I could sell that, or if I need to just cut one set, that's how I didn't finesse by just not doing the work. I just did it to make sure that you got my concept and understand that, because you're not getting graded on if you finish. You're getting graded on if you got a good idea or not. Wow. So whether I finished or not, as long as the images and the plans that I'm showing you, you can understand, that is the goal. And that's the goal with anything, it's always going to be more to do. Like your projects that are that's in construction now aren't done, right? You keep designing, you keep doing the details, you keep, you keep advancing on that stuff. So nothing's ever going to be done. Right. So that's just a little tip on how I, made that happen.
So then what would you say, well, before I even ask this question I'm about to ask, who would you say are some people or a person that you look up to, you admire, that has kind of pushed you today into this, into who you are?
Well, a person, I can say I just learned a lot from I'm going to say Michael Lingerfeld. So Michael Lingerfeld, he is a past AIA Florida president. He was my very first mentor in architecture. I met him at AIA Legislative Day. He worked for Disney. He was a design Imagineer. He was the first architect that I met that was doing something else. And he had an alternative career path. And when I met him as a minority, and he was not a minority, he welcomed me very well. And he taught me how to not be afraid to be myself and come forward into this profession. And he made sure, he was just a really good mentor. Like he made sure emailed me every month, checked on me, graduations. Even once I moved to Miami after graduating from FAMU, he plugged me in with all the contacts here. He was like, he made sure someone paid for my AIA membership my first year here. He was a really, really good person to just like kind of mold me. So I can say, if it was anyone, like looking back, I would definitely say him, because he definitely like made sure like, all right, you're in it now, be in it. Yeah. And it was really, really good, because again, he wasn't a minority. And I know a lot of times we don't feel welcomed by people who aren't minorities in this profession. So that, I think, having him behind me and just like checking in on me throughout those school years, throughout studio, whether he knew I was going through something or not, it was very, very helpful. So I would like to say him. He passed away a couple years ago. Yeah, it was really, really sad. He passed away a couple years ago, but up until the time that he passed, for 8-9 years, he was a consistent mentor in my life. And it was very, very, helpful.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's amazing. I'm so happy that you had somebody like that to kind of catapult you. Not a lot of people get mentors. And they don't usually have someone that can really lay out a foundation and a road for them to take. So I think that's really good that you had that, because it probably is a big component as to why you are who you are and how you got to where you are. So that's good. So the next question I wanted to ask you is about vision. And, just from your idea, and, how you would explain it, like, what do you believe vision is?
I think it's something that comes naturally. It's because for me, vision is passion. Like you said, like it's if you can visualize it, that means it's like natural. Like, oh my God, I want to do this and I want to do that. And so I think if that happens, it's good to learn how to plan that out then. I don't think the planning of your vision may not be natural, but the vision itself is a natural thing. So I think that, it's just a process. And as long as you don't let go of the initial vision, you can always refer to that while you're planning and making sure your planning aligns with the vision. I don't think, it goes hand in hand, right? Like, so you just have to pay attention to what that is and make sure you don't stray away from the vision, from opinions of other people or whatever life throws at you. Like, just make sure whatever that, like, I think it's really important to write the vision down, right? That's where they do vision boards. So that when you do your vision board and something happens and it may throw you off, look at it and get back on track. So for me, I think that's just what vision is, something natural. It's something that's like passion,
So then with everything that you said about your passion, writing it down, making sure everything aligns back to it, can you walk everyone through the vision that you have for yourself? Because you kind of walked us through a little bit, deciding to go to grad school, being an undergrad and having to start a little bit over because you were starting at 1.1 and you had to grind a little bit harder because the obstacles. But can you kind of walk everyone to like, what is it that brought you to architecture? What was the vision? And, and kind of lead us to, Yin Studios that you have right now.
Yeah, so I think the vision was, like I said, it's natural, right? You can't kind of control it. So when I was in 7th grade, my history teacher, she told me I would be an architect because I drew the Alamo so well. And I did not know what an architect was at the time, but she was adamant. Like, she used to call me Little Architect, and she had that picture. Like, she put it outside her door and kept it there until I left that middle school. So it was like a really weird thing that was just kind of like hanging over my head. I just was like, I don't know what it is. And so when I did get into architecture, I'm like, okay, so around my 3rd year is when I said, all right, so if this is what I'm going to do, how am I going to do it? I know that there are people that are better than me out there because there's always
there's always at least someone else.
And I at the time, I felt as if I'm like, I know I don't know everything. I still need to learn. I need to learn quick, and I need to be able to compete with these people who are better than me. So around, I want to say it was Christmas break is when I feel like that's when my vision of not even knowing where the end result will be, but just like trying to stay on the right path. I was like, okay, I need to start interning. And I need to start figuring out what architecture really is outside of my program. And so at that moment, I quit. I was working, regular mall job. I decided that I would no longer work anything that was not architecture related. I started applying to like a whole bunch of internships. And from that year, which was, I want to say 2012-ish, 2013-ish, I only worked internships up until I got my first job. So I think that was kind of like how I started to plan out whatever would come, that I would be prepared to have something on my resume because I knew that was required.
Right.
So that I would have at least an internship or 2 by the time I graduated, right? So that's when that vision kind of started. And then I, after graduation, went to grad school. I was working full time. I never stopped working. And then met my first minority architect. I started working with her because I knew at that point I kind of wanted to like meet people like me in the profession that also helped guide me. I had Mr. Lingerfeld guiding me on that end. And I had a really, really good opportunity to work with a Black female architect here in Miami. And that also helped clarify my vision because she was very adamant on what to do, how to be a woman, how to be a woman in this profession, and how to be a professional woman in this profession. She aligned that very well for me. And I worked with her for a year, my last year in grad school. And so by the time I got out, I knew enough to go work for she was a one-woman firm. Her main goal and how she does is she gives back and hires Black interns to prepare them for when they graduate, because then she's like, okay, go, you know enough. And she taught me enough. At that point, I had enough experience with the city, not full, but I had enough. I learned enough by watching and sending a few emails, going to some meetings, knowing what they need, responses, things like that. Yeah. So she kept educating me a little bit and continued to clarify whatever path this is what you need to do. So by the time I graduated, she kicked me out. She told me I had enough experience and I need to look for a real job, literally, because I wanted to stick with her. I was comfortable, I was comfortable. And she was like, you need to go make some real money. You're selling yourself short. She continued to remind me that this is not where you stop. So I went to get at that point, but she is also the one who told me to open my LLC. She was like, I know you're a student, open your LLC now. And I was like, why? Like this, what do I need it for now? She's the one who started to put the business side, again, be a woman in this profession. She's the one who started to make me think past just getting a job, right? So I started to understand what it means to be a professional, a design professional, and I started to look for positions in a larger company. And I just got lucky because here in Miami, so I started working for R&B, Royal Bickervis in Miami, and they weren't looking to hire a full employee. A lot of small firms, you know how that is. They don't want to. But for me, it was kind of perfectly fine. Because I'm like, okay, well, you can pay my company because I got an LLC at this point. So they write the checks to my company and I get the experience of working on high-end projects, learning what an actual firm culture is in an office, doing those things. And I just got very, very, very blessed and very lucky because they also supported the path, right? I was in the middle of completing my IEP hours. So I still needed quite a few hours, but I had already gained some from being in college, from being AIS president, throwing, these events, going to certain AIA things. I had hours plus the year that I interned with Juliana on Miami Beach. So I was trying to complete those. They knew that I wanted to start, my testing for licensure. Yeah. So they, were really interested in my journey and in my passion, which is sometimes not always the case when you go work for a company. So I always tell people, make sure that they, want to support you too.
Exactly.
And so they asked me my first week, I want to say my first 2 days there, they were like, what do you want to learn? What do you want to work on? What is it that you're trying to do? And at the time I was so confused by construction documents. I was like, I don't know what construction documents are still. I don't know how to take them from A to Z. I still don't understand,
reading them, you're like, what?
Like, what is all of these words? And it's just like, it's a lot to take in. So I told them, and you learn design in school, right? So, you kind of learn what you like, right? So I told them that I wanted to learn construction documents. And they said, okay. They handed me a 100-year-old building in South Florida, 2-story commercial building with the tenants inside as we were going to do construction. Mm-hmm. And they said, here you go, here's your first project. They gave me as-builts and they said, good luck, build your construction documents. And I was like, okay, the building was falling apart.
They didn't give you like a template?
They made me learn. They said, here is plenty of office record sets. Yeah. Look through those. Let us know if you have any questions. And they weren't the ones that just said, here, do it. Don't ask us nothing. Ask us questions. Any questions I had, no matter how dumb they were, they didn't make me feel like I'm asking stupid questions. There were times, of course, where it gets frustrating because it's their name and it's my drawings. And you know how it is. And it's legally binding documents. Yeah. So, I did a lot. I made a lot of mistakes. But, they weren't the typical architects that are just like, bulls and you just like go in your car and cry. Like it wasn't that type of experience. Like, okay, you messed up. You almost cost us a $50,000 whatever.
Right.
You need to make sure this note is in the drawing or whatever the case was. So I had the opportunity to literally have somebody kind of walk me through outside of the walkthroughs that I already experienced, prior to joining with them. I still was able to continue to learn. Like every architect that came in my path was not afraid to teach me. So that me being able to learn my first 2 years of just doing construction documents, allowing me to project manage, making me go on site by myself. And then if I say, I need y'all to come to this meeting, they would come, but they would make me still hold the meeting. I had to type up the meeting. I mean, they made me do everything, learn from doing the construction documents, project managing, doing all the CAs, RFIs, paperwork. They taught me, they allowed me to learn. They designed it because I don't believe in designing for other people. I ain't gonna get the credit. So that's another reason why I didn't want to design. But they designed it. After schematic design, it goes on to me and it's mine until closeout. Mm-hmm. So also learning how to deal with the consultants. I mean, I was able to, again, continue to clarify the vision of me, even to make sure I want to be on this path. It wasn't like I was just doing bathrooms or just doing things where I didn't get the full understanding of the profession. So a lot of the times it's just the experience that I had that allowed me to keep clarifying what it is that I want to do is what I still want to do, or I'm still up to the challenge of it, or whatever that may be. So I think that's kind of like how, I've gotten there, and how I got to Yin Studio is that, okay, it was already developed, but I'm like trying to develop what type of design studio I was going to run. For me, after the first 2 years, again, I'm the only Black person in my company, the only female in my company, and I hadn't had any African-American or, clients. I felt like I wasn't servicing my community because they didn't know who I was, right? They don't know that I'm kind of here to help. I can bring their project to the forefront and get it, done or whatever. So that's when I'm like, okay, I want to start at least expanding and giving my services to people who need them. I'm doing a lot of high-end projects. I'm very tangible, and I can be useful to communities like my own. So that's when I'm like, all right, let me start putting out that this is what I'm doing, right? So I kind of like revamped myself a couple years ago. What was it? I think I did my first public event like by myself was December 2019. And I was a vendor in Atlanta, and I was the only person there who wasn't selling anything but myself. And I was just letting people know, hey, I'm a Black designer. You all need to start understanding who your neighborhood architects are, right? That's when I started this thing of like hood architect. Like I'm me. I'm not a professional.
I was gonna tell you to tell the people your IG name.
And that's where that started. That's when you saw my page change completely, like where it wasn't just me no more. Cause it's not about me. I don't care. You're gonna learn me as I go, but you started to see like the architecture that I'm doing and the things that I'm doing, whether it's for them or myself. I'm just the hood architect. I'm not super professional. Anybody know me? I'm not super professional. I'm myself, but I'm thorough and I can get it done, right? So that's where that name came in. Like, I just want to be known as a neighborhood architect because I don't really care for the skyscrapers. I tell people all the time, I like the little gems. Like, I like the little hidden gems of architecture that's around the world, like the little 2 stories with the bomb facades, or these nice wooden libraries that are in these neighborhoods. Like that's the thing that I like to do.
The diamonds in the rough.
The diamonds that are so beautiful, right? And that you only find in the architecture magazines hidden somewhere because that's what I like to do, But I've had the experience of doing these really, really expensive, really nice things to where I can kind of know how to get these nice things very efficient for people who still want to do things for their communities, for their family, for their personal business. So that's kind of where Yin Studio, came about, of me just like, all right, I do this, but, I do this as well. And now that I think that works so well because I've been doing these high-end projects for this company and I know their protocol. I know how construction documents are done at this point. They support me on these projects. So they're like, I can now bring projects to them, make you sign it, get you permitted, all that, because they support what I'm trying to do.
That's really good, because now you've created relationships around you. Like, okay, you were saying so much, girl. I'm literally trying to put pins in my brain to remember all the stuff I'm gonna bring up. All right, so I'm gonna try to go through it.
Go ahead.
Everything that you said. First, I want to say this. Whether you believe it or not, I truly believe that your steps are ordered. Period. Whether you believe it or not, take it if you want to.
I believe it and receive it.
I really believe that, because starting from the time you said that your elementary teacher or middle school, yeah, the moment she said that, that's when the word in my mind, purpose, popped up. I was like, okay, she's destined to do this, because everything you've done up until this point has aligned, girl, like aligned. And it's like they were all teachable moments, but they were always opening the next door. So whoever's listening to this, ordered steps. All right, that's, y'all need it. That's one thing. And the other pin, there were 4 things that popped in my mind. I was like, all right, purpose, vision, passion, skills. And the reason why those words popped up is because I'm looking at you and I'm looking at me. And I'm like, okay, everything that you talked about, it aligns with the purpose that you have, because you truly are passionate about what you do. But then I also have the same degree. I'm also working. I had to learn construction documents, art. I had to do all that. But I don't see it as a passion, but more of a skill. Mm-hmm. And the word actually was Envision platform. So while you have purpose in this industry of architecture that you're passionate about, I feel like I have a platform with the skills that I have. Mm-hmm. Same things, but they're completely used differently. Mm-hmm. And that's why, girl, I'd be rooting for you, because I know what it feels like to do all the things that you're doing. And I know how it feels to start and open up those doors. But I know that those are not the only doors that I want to be in. So that's why I feel like it's not a purpose for me more than a platform. And it's not a passion like yours more than it is a skill. And that's why when you was talking, I'm like, no, this is like, that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I was like, dang, like, how did you, it all worked out. Like, it all worked out. And when you said, it ain't about me, it's about everybody learning the neighborhood architect, understanding the diamonds in the rough. And then that's when I was like, you know, she has a mission. Like because a mission is not about us, it's about someone else. And now I endorse you, because I fully now understand your story, and I see your vision, I see your passion. And now I know it's not about Teri. It's not about even Yin Studio. It's more about taking what I've learned and I'm passionate about and giving it back to people to fully understand. And that is what everyone who's listening and watching, y'all need to understand. Like, this is for real. Yeah. Vision, passion, purpose, they're all aligned purposely for us. But if you don't know what that looks like, you have to start digging for it. So I'm listening, girl. I'm just like, point. I remember this, because everything you're talking about, as much as I would have want to like scream, because I know how it feels to be the only Black woman. I know how it feels to be the only minority. I know how it feels to go into a job and feel anxious because you don't understand the word, but then they're putting it on you and you have to know it. But we got through it. We got through it, and you've created something out of that. And, you know, I'm learning more things in the background that I didn't know I could do. So I think, like, just hearing your story, it's phenomenal. I love what you're doing with Yin Studio. I love the fact that you call yourself the hood architect. And I love the fact that you said, I'm not so professional, but it's like, I can see your professionalism and who you are all tied into this one brand. And it's like, it's Teri Watson, it's Yin Studio, it's hood art, it's all the same and different names, but same idea. So, girl, I had to get that out. All right.
That means a lot, because again, like, you know me for a very, very long time, and I feel like I'm the same person that, like I've grown a little bit professionally. My resume has grown, but I'm still the same person. Like, they say they could take the girl out the hood, but they can't take the hood out the girl. And I've just never been the one to fold for this profession, and that's why I've also, and to the minority, architects out there, students who are emerging professionals or whatever you are, you do not have to change who you are to get the job, to get the opportunity, because I guarantee you the same way how I walked in is what they got. Don't fake it to get the job, because then they're not going to be happy with you and you're not going to be happy with you, because you can only keep up that persona for so long.
That is
so
true.
Definitely just present yourself to however you are, and just run with that, own that, because I knew I wouldn't be happy at a large firm, because this could have stopped me from a lot of opportunities. Just a disclaimer, I didn't want to work for a large company. Could I have gotten? Now, would it be beneficial? Absolutely, because the money at those firms are great. Okay, it's great. I'm not the most, I'm putting that disclaimer out. That was a decision that I made I was like, you know what? I don't care about the money. Do I need it? Yes. I was, recently out of grad school, out of state student. Absolutely, I need it. But I just was never that one. Like, even, I just wasn't that one. So I made sure that the firm that I interviewed with or whoever I looked at, I felt like, okay, I could see myself working for them. Even if I went to their office for an interview, could I see myself sitting at that desk and be happy? Is the environment good? Like, a lot of people forget that when you are interviewing for a position, you're also interviewing them to see if you're good for that position, to see if they're good for you.
Same for the people in the back.
You are interviewing them also, okay? And not good for you. Every company is not the best for you. If you gotta walk in, you feel, listen, imposter syndrome in our profession is real. And if you're not comfortable when you walk into that office, or when other professionals come in your office for a meeting, because 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna look like you. So if you are not gonna be comfortable, that's not the job for you, because you're not going to be able to learn and focus. You're going to do they like this, or why are they like, and you don't want that to learn. It's just not comfortable. And so I went to firms that were comfortable, right? That didn't really require you to dress up. And because I'm not anybody knows me, I don't dress up like that. I'm not I like to be comfortable, especially if I'm going to sit and stare at a computer all day.
8 or more hours.
So I had a lot of things on my list too that allowed me to say, okay, this is kind of what I want to do, so I can stick around and learn. I didn't want to do a lot of jumping around.
Can I say one thing? Because you said list. That's what I'm talking about. You knew where you wanted to be. That's why I'm talking about vision. People have to realize that you can't jump in every opportunity just to pay your bills. I get it. Like she said, she could have used the money, but she knew who she was. She knew where she was going. She knew what she needed. And that's why vision is so important, because you know what ends up happening, Teri? You start doing things haphazardly. You start just inadvertently doing things because it's like, I need it. Whatever. I'm just going to take it. I'm going to take it. And bits of pieces of you are being just ripped apart because you're just trying to survive. You're just trying to respond to just what's around you. But I want people to kind of get it, like what you're saying. It doesn't even matter if you're in architecture. That's not about anything. Know you. Know where you're going, know what you want. And make that list. Like you said, you made a list and it didn't align.
Make a list, because, and also, I don't know if this was just a thing for me, or, I feel like it's a thing, but there were a lot of professors who also was like, you go to a large firm, you're just going to get stuck doing this and you're not going to learn. And I'm like, well, I ain't going through all this to not learn. So maybe, they actually put the ding in my head to be like, well, maybe that's not for me, because I know that as a minority, I need to be well diverse in a lot of things, not just bathrooms, which are very important. We all know that. But I don't need to be stuck on a design team. I need to be like a part of all the processes. Small firms can give you that. Smaller jobs or smaller companies that are doing big things can give you that. So kind of whatever you need to learn, go to who's teaching you what you need to learn. If you do need a specific tangible that you're trying to learn, then go there. But if you're not, go somewhere where they're gonna feed all your desires, all the things that you want to learn. So that kind of like helped me. And yeah, that's just kind of where, you know, now I'm able to service a lot of people, whether it's me or whether, again, if it's the companies that I'm contracted with, you can, you know, I can bring them and just kind of get their project done or whatever it is that they need done. So yeah, that's kind of how that happened.
That's really good, girl. I love that. So then with everything that has gone on with starting your business, would you say that there was any sacrifices that needed to be made to get where you are? And even right now, I know that you're still finishing up your tests and all that. So I know you had to sacrifice a lot. So let the people know, what are some sacrifices that had to be made?
Time, relationships, whether they're friendships, you know, because not everybody understands your journey and where you're trying to go. And a lot of that times it could be family, it could be people you went to elementary, middle school, high school with, you know, it's a plethora of things. So yeah, sacrifice, I think for me, it was a lot of time because I didn't really we already put in a lot of time in school, a lot of time. And then I only gave myself, you know, a year out of school before I started testing. It was like a year and a half or so. And so not only was I learning how to do these projects in a new program, because I had to start learning the company's program and what they use. So it was long hours on that, 12-hour, 13-hour days every day. And then I started studying for my licensure. So I just didn't get a break. And I'm still, you know, testing. I'm still failing, then learning, then passing, then failing, then winning. So it's a process of just kind of knowing whatever your vision is, the sacrifices to get there, you just gotta do them. Or you may not get your full vision that you started with. Like you can still get pieces of it if you did, like, because then you start to pull like what you want out of it and what you don't want out of it. But if you want everything out of it, whatever sacrifices that come along, you just gotta say, hey, this is what it is, or try to figure out how to manage the time or manage whatever it is that's may be causing you to create a sacrifice that you don't want to do. So it's just, I think for me, it was more time, because I can't get that time back. You know, I can't get any of that back from studying or learning. It's just time, because I'm still giving time, right? I'm still taking the weekends that I can't do nothing because I got to get these tests out the way, right? At this point, I'm trying to finish up my foundation goals so that I can keep doing other things in the next years to come, you know, because we're at the age where it's like you have to have a foundation, or you know what I mean? So
you're going to start over.
You're going to start over, you know. So I'm just at the place now where it's like those last few check marks, I'm still sacrificing. I'm still trying to get those done because there's other things that I want to do that I can't do until I get that out of the way. So that, time is the most thing that I've sacrificed out of this entire journey.
Yeah. And I like when you also said about you have to know your vision, and if you come to something that might halt you, you're going to lose bits and pieces of it. And yesterday I wrote a blog and I said that a delay does not mean default, you know? So just because you have a hiccup that comes along, it does not mean you still can't get to where you're going. It just means you're not going to get there at the time you thought you were going to get there, you know?
Don't look at other people and try to say like, dang, like I'm not gonna get there, because let me tell you, people think that my journey is just like super easy, right? No. And that's another thing. Like I appreciate when platforms like yourself that try to get to know me a little bit better, because I always try to clarify that. Like, listen, anybody who knows me, I was broke, okay? Broke. I went plenty of days with no food, plenty of days with no lights in my apartment. But guess what? I didn't care, because whoever was in that, like architecture school, we was a family. I had my best friend, if she had $5, I got $2.50, she got $2.50, and we went to McDonald's. Like, it was, I had a support system too. And I also, like I said, my lights were off I remember my lights were out for about 2 weeks at one point. And I think it was like around presentation time, of course. What? But I'm like, well, I'm in studio all day anyway. By the time I leave studio, it's 3:00 in the morning. I'm going to sleep. My water's still on. By the time I wake up, I have natural light. Boom. Worry about that later. Like, I had to have that mentality to get through the vision, right? Like, so don't always look at other people, because I'm pretty sure people gonna look now like, oh my God, like, no. Like, I had a lot of sacrifices in undergrad, i.e. why I didn't want to go to grad school, because I went through a lot throughout that time. So, whatever your sacrifices are, know that you're not the first one to have to sacrifice. And nobody wears their sacrifices. They just do it.
Go through it.
Right. So, just understand that there are people out there that has done the same thing that you've done, that had to do more than you've done. Because my story, there are people that has, never got their lights on, right? Like, I don't know, like, so I just never looked at it like it was nothing that you, like, don't worry about what's happening in the moment. Just try to keep going, because that positive energy, that whatever that is that you give out to the universe, they're going to give it back. So just that's another thing I would like to add on to sacrifices. Don't look at other people's journeys and try to say like, damn, she had it easy or whatever. You never know. So I just want to like clarify that they're, with the sacrifices topic.
Thank you for clarifying that. I'm glad you did, because I don't want people walking away thinking, oh, good, right, go kill it. Ooh, bam. And then it's like, you need to know it was not seamless. You will go through things, but that is what will help push out a vision rather than a dream. A dream, nothing ties you to a dream. I can dream today and be like, oh, you know what? I think I'm gonna get into singing. I'm not gonna get into singing tomorrow. So that means nothing held me to that. But your vision is something that you have things in place, is going to hook you and keep you in line. And it's like, no matter what, I have to get there. And I like that you said, don't compare yourself, because I ain't gonna lie, I did that. Because what ended up happening to me is that I ended up having to do, design 4.1 and 2 another year. So a whole year went by and I didn't get to do it. So I had to graduate later.
That happened to me twice.
Girl,
so
but listen,
another thing. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it really affected me, because I was like, all my friends are graduating in 2013. They're already leaving. And it hurt, Teri, to hop on Facebook and see all them graduation photos.
I wish I knew that, because I would have told you when I met you, because look, so we graduated together.
Yeah.
I was supposed to graduate 2 years before you. So I would have definitely told you, like, Esther, it is okay, because I got behind my first year. My first year, 1.1, after 1.1, I had to wait an entire year.
Right.
Then I did 1.2, and then I did 2.1. Had to wait an entire year. And let me tell you why. Because my freshman year, again, my out of state, FAMU ain't give me nothing for real. So my first semester, my dad paid out of pocket $12,000. And I said, yeah, that's my first semester. I got years, right? So I told him, don't worry about it. I'm gonna have to figure this out on my own at this point. So he did pay, he ended up paying for me to go into 1.2. So he paid another, I think it was 10. But by the time he paid, it was full, studio was full, and I could not get in. So I had to wait the year. And then after 2.1, could not pay my tuition. So I ended up having to, what I did was I sat out 2.2, I sat out 2.2. And I worked full time. And I did online classes for a college back home, a community college back home, to just get the regular courses out the way so that I could transfer those. And I paid my bills and my tuition off that semester so that I can get in school the next year. So again, people have no idea. But the good thing about that is that I came across people in 2 years behind me, right? I met my best friend. I met my business partner, Dante, who the day we met in 2009 said that we would be business partners. You know, so
like the same thing happened to me because I was so mad, girl, and I was like, this ain't fair. But that was the best year yet. That break was the best thing I ever had. I passed classes with A's, girl. I had straight A's. Didn't even have that before. That's when we went to New Orleans. That's when I went to Boston. That's when I was traveling. So it was one of my best years yet.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see that because of how I felt about other people. I felt like they were going over me. They were passing me. They were leaving me. And we don't see that. So thank you for clearing that up, guys.
To clarify, I came in with Avery.
Exactly.
She was in another, so she was in a Goodwin, or so I don't know who her first year studio was, but I came in with them.
Yeah, I remember.
You know, so I didn't graduate on time.
And I like that she said that because it's like, why didn't you give up? Out of your whole
story. I was not going back home. Like that was the thing. I was the only one in my family to go to college. I had, you know, my niece who was born, I want to say a year before I left, you know, so, and she watches me, you know, so I'm just like, I can't go back. Like, I love home. It was a reason why I left. I needed to leave, right? Just to learn more, to be more. I wasn't going back. I wasn't going to tell people, oh yeah, I left and I came back. No, that was a pride thing for me, honestly. Yeah. So I just took that and I was like, even if I am taking a community college back home, I ain't going back home. I'm gonna pay this, even though it would have helped, right? I wouldn't have had to pay rent. I could have worked, saved the money. I'm like, no, I'm gonna sacrifice. I'm gonna pay the rent. I paid off $6,000 of tuition. Yeah. I starved. I ate noodles, I think, the whole time.
Girl.
I had to do what I had to do. I'm like, at this point, why wouldn't I give it my all? Like, why wouldn't I? It obviously chose me and so I just didn't. I was not giving up. And yeah, it wasn't easy. It wasn't, you know, it was a time and people were like, are you in school? Like, I am. Yeah, I am in school. Like, I didn't ever say I was a FAMU student.
I'm in school. I'm a student.
Y'all never see me on campus because they never did, right? So I'm like, you know, and then I had the support of people, you know, who saying like, we'll see you next semester, you know, the people who did know. So yeah, I mean, and you feel like it's only you, but there's so many people that happens to, you know. Yeah. Whether it's the class is full and you do have the money or you don't have the money, like HBCUs, there's just certain things that kind of come along with that process of college. So yeah, I definitely don't give up just because you can't consecutively get it done.
Yeah.
4 years or the 5 years or whatever it is. But I'm not gonna say it didn't take a toll on me because it definitely did. After I was done after getting my bachelor's. It was such a struggle. I did not want to continue.
Yeah.
Here, but again, I had the support of a family member who was like, yeah, no, you're not the one that's going to give up. So yeah, it's important to pick and be sure that your support system still knows what you're struggling with, so that they continue to push you, because it wasn't all me, you know. I wasn't that determined to keep going to grad school.
Yeah.
So that's the truth.
Good job, Auntie. Girl, I would love to keep you here. I really do. This was really good. It was very nostalgic, but it was also very informative because you were able to really like walk me through your story, help me understand the vision you had. And I think you clarified things very well, especially even just saying have a support system. Some people try to grind on their own and they're their own support, you know, whatever gets you going, but it's always good to have somebody, you know, still affirming you, still pushing you, still motivating you, blessing you, pulling you up when you fall, reminding you, because it happens. You know, that journey was not no straight line now. You know, you gave me some zigzags in there, so I didn't know. And I do thank you for your transparency. and your willingness to tell me your story, because I didn't know half these things. And I think it's important for everyone who's probably struggling with whatever they want out of life to realize that it is not a seamless road, but it's still a journey that will get you to where you want if you're disciplined enough to do it.
Yeah.
So
I have a quick, something I want to put out. I did start a platform for minority architects, engineers, urban designers, landscape architects, anyone who is a part of the architecture project team.
Yeah.
Called the Neighborhood Architects.
Ooh.
And it's basically an interactive map to where you can find architects in your local neighborhoods. So you can filter them by state and by profession, and you can look up and see who's in your area if you have a architecture project that you're trying to do, and if you want to support the minorities in the profession. There is also a few merch available. All of the merchandise proceeds from some of the portions of the proceeds will be dedicated to nonprofit organizations that's dedicating their time to educating the youth about architecture and design. We give out the proceeds twice a year. So we give out to 2 different organizations every year. So if you do decide to buy anything, it's definitely going and getting circulating in our community. So just want to put that out there. The platform was launched last week as of today. So we're doing pretty well. So again, my passion trying to get Black professionals out and more visibility. So if anyone who out there is a designer or an engineer, urban designer, landscape, let us know what hood you in and drop it on the map. Submit your information and it'll be on the map for someone to find you.
I love that. Girl, you better go. Like, give me all the information. I'll make sure that I have it available to people and make sure I add it to the video. Like, that's really good. Very admirable. I do love what you're doing. Love where you're going.
My name is Teri and I envision my vision.
Woo! Oh, man, that was so good. I'm gonna stop.